Hey friends, it's Rosalind. Welcome back to our gardens and our tiny flower farm. I feel like it's been a while since we've walked through the gardens together and just admired everything that's in bloom. We are in mid-August and all of the late summer flowers are blooming. So make yourself a cup of coffee or tea and we're just going to take a relaxing walk together through the gardens, admire all of the flowers, and look at a little bit of garden design. There's a lot of new faces around here, so I'll kind of try to explain the gardens as we walk through them. This is our perennial cut flower garden that we started designing just in October of 2023, so it's still a baby garden. It's in our front yard right by the road. I wanted to have a special garden for our customers when they stop by to pick up flower bouquets. So I do have at the entrance of the garden a earth angel rose on each side, and it is starting to rebloom, and our roses are actually recovering a little bit from all of the Japanese beetle bugs. Thankfully, they're pretty much gone. This is creeping thyme that I had started from seed using the winter sowing method. I don't know how well the camera picks this up, but this creeping thyme is just loaded with honeybees. As we walk under the arbor, there's a climbing Eden rose right here, and eventually I will want to add another one on this side. But we are just slowly adding in iris and roses and lilies into this garden, as well as hydrangeas as we are able to. In this back section, there is an obelisk on each side of this apple tree that my husband built and I painted. And then this spring we planted climbing roses on them. This one has Princess Charlene on it. And this is just it's kind of a tall rose, not really a climbing rose. But oh, those blooms are so pretty, and you can see there's a Japanese beetle bug in them. But they smell so good. Love using this one in cut flower arrangements. And as we turn back around, these two sections are planted up exactly the same way. This rose I planted as a bare root this spring, and it's called Cathedral Bells. Oh my goodness, this one is another one that's so pretty in cut flower arrangements. All right, let's go see what's blooming over here on this side. The Southern Charm Verbascum that I had started from seed using the winter sowing method, they have started putting on some more blooms. Oh, this is such a sweet flower. It can also be used in cut flower arrangements. It doesn't have a very long base life, but it's so sweet. Almost forgot. Look at the Coco Loco rose. Oh, that color is everything. Okay, over here, I had planted this rose earlier this summer. I got it from Menards on clearance, and it said it's an Earth Angel rose. But you can see by the blooms that it's obviously not an Earth Angel rose, but I'm wondering if it's maybe Sweet Mademoiselle. Isn't that so pretty? It'll be fun to see what kind of rose it is. One thing that I'm noticing about this garden is that we do need more late summer and fall blooming color in here. I do have some black-eyed Susans, Sahara black-eyed Susans that I had started from seed. There's a couple of hydrangeas that are still babies. Those will be blooming next year at this time. But I was thinking maybe we could add some Japanese anemones in here. That would be very pretty for some September color. And down here, there's more black-eyed Susans. And then I do have just a couple of dahlias dotted throughout the garden, which will also bring us color as we head on into September. Those have just started blooming. Isn't that so pretty? There's just a couple popped in here and there. Now, I'm not even going to be shy about it. I love shopping from the clearance rack at the garden center. I picked up this crabapple tree earlier this week at Menards. So I'm thinking that I want to have it in this section with maybe a little circular garden around it with daffodils planted underneath it. So I just set it here so I can kind of see if this is actually where I want it to stay. I already have some daffodil bulbs on order that I want to plant underneath this tree. And I think it's going to be very pretty, having this crabapple tree kind of overlooking the perennial garden. The crabapples on a crabapple tree are great to use in fall arrangements. They're so pretty, and also even in winter arrangements. The planters in front of the garage have grown so big. So I planted Diamond Frost Euphorbia, Rockin' Fuchsia Salvia, and Supertunia Vista Silverberry, as well as Dichondra Silver Falls. You can see that coming out of the front of the containers. It's a container arrangement that is so easy to put together, but so effective. Something that I repeated over and over in my containers is the Dichondra Silver Falls. I love how that plant looks just dangling out of any type of container. We have some more super petunias right here at the entrance to the porch. And then we have ferns, some begonias with more Dichondra Silver Falls. That is pretty much all that I have planted up here on the porch, is just a repeat of ferns and begonias with the Dichondra Silver Falls. It's very simple, but oh my goodness, it makes an impact. This is where I will often sit to have my morning coffee. And I think this is my favorite view of the porch. It's just this with the hanging baskets and the layering of the perennials. The knockout roses are finally recovering as well from all the Japanese beetle bugs that we had, and they're looking so good. As you walk into the backyard, this is the view that greets you. You can see the cut flower garden from here. And then as you turn this way, you see the patio. This is the magnolia tree that we planted last week, a perennial that I still need to get planted into a container. And do you remember the pansies that we had started from seed back in January, I think? They're still blooming and looking so pretty. This flower bed is on the north side of the house. It's always kind of hard for me to kind of figure out what to plant in here because it gets morning sun and it gets evening sun, but then it's shaded like in the middle of the afternoon. So there's just a variety of plants in here. As we walk around the corner, we have this little section in here that has our utilities in it. I have a little pathway going back to where the electrical stuff is. There's bobo hydrangeas on each side, a clematis that has started reblooming. I noticed that this stuff needs to be cut back. And back in here, I had started some double blooming columbine from seed using the winter sowing method. So those are all planted in here. We won't get blooms from them until next year, but that will be so fun to see. Now this is something new. I used to have this fern back here, right in here. I removed it, placed it back here to kind of hide some of that stuff. And then we planted a hydrangea in here, which will kind of grow up and just fill in this space. I am so excited to have that in the garden because I've been trying to figure out for quite a while, like what should I plant in here to kind of hide all of that stuff. So what do you think, friends? Do you think it'll look okay with the bobo hydrangeas? And then we have this pink blooming hydrangea that will just kind of cover everything up. As we continue on to the patio, these planters have grown so big. Do you remember how small these plants were this spring? There's impatiens, there is, or actually I should say sun patience, canna lilies, and back here, this one has koyas instead of the canna lilies. And again, there's just some Dichondra Silver Falls in the front. Love, love that plant. There's some super bells, ferns in front of the deck. The Pinky Winky hydrangea is looking so pretty. The bumbles love the pollen that is on there. There's even some butterflies. And as we continue around the deck, there's some echinacea in bloom at last rose. And I planted this hydrangea. So I pulled out, I might have to throw a picture up of what it looked like just last week. I pulled out all of the hostas that were in here. There was some lamb's ear right in here. It used to make sense to have the lamb's ear right in here because our flower bed only came out to here. So that was like right, the lamb's ear was right at the corner. So I removed all of that, planted a hydrangea back in here between the two ferns that will grow up and just cover that wall space right there. It'll be very pretty, the contrast of the hydrangea and the ferns. I'll slowly be adding in more hydrangeas and removing more plants as we are able to. But this hibiscus up against the deck, oh, I had thought about removing it, but this time of year it looks so pretty and I love that color up against the deck. This is such a peaceful view, at least it is to me. On this side of the pergola we have an evergreen and a fernleaf buckthorn. Then you can see around the corner, it's just a repeat of the same plants. But it's such a sweet spot to just sit in and relax a little bit. We have our outdoor dining table set so that it overlooks the cut flower garden as well as the patio. And Caden planted up this container earlier this summer, and it has some Gaura in it. The bumblebees and the hummingbirds absolutely love this flower. I think he did an amazing job on it. Let's head out to the cut flower garden because there's a lot in bloom out here as well. This cut flower garden has all of our annual cut flowers planted in it, as well as our vegetables. And then all along the borders of this garden, I have it filled with cut flowers that are perennials, and I call it my cottage borders. This is a pinky, no, not a pinky winky. This is a firelight hydrangea with rudbeckia planted on this side. And then on this side, we have obedient plant, which is constantly covered in pollinators. There's some echinacea planted along the front and limelight hydrangea. There's another hibiscus planted in there. And then we just have phlox, and there is right on the behind this bird bath, there's some sedum. I'm so excited to see this one bloom. This is Japanese anemones, fall in love sweetly. So that will be very fun to see. There's Russian sage. The bee balm is pretty much done blooming. You can see behind this border, there is our sunflowers that we have as cut flowers. Some of those are going to seed, and the goldfinches are all over those sunflowers. There is in the window boxes, it's called Vintage Rose, I believe, Super Bells, double super bells. So pretty. Another hibiscus. Back on this obelisk. This is another obelisk that Harley built for me. It has a climbing rose on it that is still a baby. We planted it just this spring. And then there is just a mix of lavender and phlox and more roses. There's more rudbeckia. Oh, look at this. Do you see the butterflies on there? Oh, so pretty. If you saw last week's video, you noticed that the baby runner ducks were here under the grape arbor. We just had built a little fence around it to keep them safe, but they are with the older hens and the older duck now, and they're doing so good. Hi. In front of the chicken coop, I did want to have something a little bit more whimsical, so I planted lantana, and there's some geraniums, as well as dichondra silver falls in this planter. And then in the basket on the gate, there is alyssum. I love using alyssum because I think it's so charming and sweet. The grapes on the grape arbor are starting to mature. Can you see those purple bunches of grapes? We tasted some last night, and they're just starting to get their sweet flavor. But as we walk along the back border, I thought I'd give you a peek into the back border because I love this view with the sunflowers. And then there's a little strip of grass between the cottage border and the sunflower patch. There's not a whole lot in bloom right now, but it's still just a peaceful spot to be in. And I think it's also the corner that is most favored by the butterflies. There's always so much butterfly activity back in here. Let's walk around this edge of the border, and then we'll take a peek into the annual cut flowers as well as the herb garden. The serendipity alliums, this is another plant that you can see is highly favored by the pollinators. Open-faced roses, these are pretty much done blooming, but those are usually just covered in bumblebees. The clematis is putting on another little flush of blooms. Through here you can peek some of the annual cut flowers. There's some more phlox, hibiscus, another pinky winky hydrangea. Oh, this is such a fun time of year because the garden has matured and filled in, and everything is just looking lush. Last night we had like 1.5 inches of rain, and it just made everything look so fresh and happy again. There's a repeat of foxglove along this border that I had started from seed using the winter sowing method, and I transplanted those into the cut flower garden last fall, and they're starting to put on some blooms. Maxine is sniffing around for a mouse as usual. The rose of Sharon, oh, it was looking so pretty. This is a plant that the bumblebees love. You can see there's one right here. The hummingbirds love it as well. Oops, it just flew away. It's so pretty. This is what will be our raised bed garden. It's a project that I had started this spring, and then all of our other garden projects started. So I kind of pushed this on the back shelf because it's back in here where nobody sees it. So I'm going to be working in here like this fall and winter as I'm able to. If you look back in this direction, this is filled with calendula and zinnias. These are seeds that I had saved from the Floret Flower Farm zinnias last summer, and they're looking so pretty. There's celosia. Maxine is taking herself on a walk through the garden. Let's walk down here because I want to show you some of the dahlias that are currently blooming. Actually, first let's take a peek at these zinnias. This is another zinnia that I had saved seeds from off of the Floret Flower Farm zinnias last summer. Aren't they so pretty? I love that blush color. Peaches and cream dahlia. I've heard some people say that they don't really like this dahlia, but I love using this one in cut flower arrangements, especially in fall arrangements, because it has kind of like a peach, apricot, all the colors mixed into it. This is a new favorite for me. It's brown sugar. Oh my goodness. Love that dahlia. And the rest I just recently cut from, so they don't have blooms on them. Maybe we'll have to do another tour of the dahlias later. There is 30 dahlia plants in here, but there's only a couple of them that currently have blooms on them. Down here, apricot lemonade cosmos. If you want a cosmo that has like the prettiest, I don't know, I think it's just like, it kind of looks like late summer and fall. They're so pretty. As we turn back in this direction, I love this view. These tunnels have been such a fun addition to the garden. You see, the sweet potatoes haven't climbed up all the way. They're about halfway. The okra, oh my goodness. Okay, we have to pop over and look at the okra flowers. Look at those gorgeous blooms. I mean, if you don't grow okra because of the actual okra, you should grow it just for the flowers. Eventually, we will be able to walk under here into the raised bed garden. It'll be so pretty once it's finished. We harvested our first watermelon off of here last week, and it was so fun because it had grown up to about here and it was just dangling down from the tunnels. You can see there's a pumpkin growing over there on the other side. Now imagine with me as you walk out from underneath these tunnels and there's a pathway that leads over to the chicken coop, or if you come through here, maybe have an arbor right there. And then we'll have our raised bed garden in here. We'll have the herb garden right up against the chicken coop, which, oh my goodness, this agastache or agastache, I've heard it pronounced both ways, it's always covered in pollinators. It's also such a fun herb to use in tea. Down below the agastache, there is a rose that we added in here. It is so fun. It's called Flavorette Peared Rose, and it actually kind of tastes like a pear. It's fun to add into drinks and into salads. If you were here this spring, you can see how much the herb garden has filled in. This is a garden that we started expanding late winter, and I started most of these plants from seed. There's basil, there's nasturtiums, marigolds, chamomile. And down here, this is one plant that I had bought. Actually, there's two plants that I bought. Some thyme and sage. But the rest of these plants we started from seed. All right, friends, I hope it's been relaxing for you to just walk through the garden together and look at everything that's blooming in late summer and see some of the upcoming garden projects that we have to work on. Have an amazing week in your own gardens, and I will see you right back here next Saturday. Bye.